The Lying Shadows. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 220 of the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and have you ever played as a kid with the Chinese shadows, where you just take your fingers and your hand, you shine any kind of light you have on them, and suddenly on the wall, you would see these majestic animals and figures. Turns out, though, at the end of the day, they were just projections, and they were not real. As a kid, that was easy to understand. But for some reason, when we grow up, we stop understanding that trick. Before we start, as usual, if you end up liking this episode, leaving a like and subscribing really mean a lot. They're just one click, but they really make the difference. Thank you very much for considering it. So, let's start with the hook that made me think of today's episode. I was listening to a podcast where a woman was interviewing people who had worked with or very close to Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. She described this small circle, this inner group of decision makers in Silicon Valley, and how incredibly tiny it is. It's not an army of geniuses, it's not some infinite network. It's a surprisingly small handful of people making moves that ripple across the entire tech industry. And here's the part that really stuck with me. She said people followed them not just because of their work, but because they end up idealizing them and their mission. It's like they've been elevated into something untouchable, something larger than life. And once someone reaches that status, it's almost impossible for the people around them to see them as just another human ever again. Hearing that made me think of something completely different. As I told you in the intro, those Chinese shadows you make with your hands. The way 2 fingers and a twist of your wrist can project a dragon or a bird or a wolf into the wall. It looks huge, impressive, even a little intimidating. But up close, it's just hands and light. That's how I think about a lot of these giants we admire. Yes, they've achieved things worth admiring, and their work had impact. But what we see, that towering image, is often a projection of our own making. Our minds are experts at filling in the blanks. We see a piece of someone, their achievements, charisma, the way they speak, and our brains start stacking imagery details on top. We create the story of the untouchable leader, the unstoppable entrepreneur, the flawless creator. And in doing so, we turn them into something they never were in the first place. It's not just celebrities or tech founders. It's the boss you think has it all figured out. It's the mentor you treat like a guru. It's the person you admire from a distance and assume has no flaws. Take a second right now. Who's the shadow in your life? Who's the person you've built up so high that you've forgotten they're human? The thing is, once you get closer to someone like this, the shadow starts to shrink. You start to see the person instead of the projection. And at first, it can feel disappointing because the magic of the shadow is that it seems untouchable. And now you see it's just hands and light. But if you look at it in another way, it's actually empowering. Because the moment you see they're human, you also see that what they have achieved isn't reserved for superhumans. It's actually possible. And if it's possible for them, maybe it's possible for you too. Now, of course, we don't say that you can become any moment you want the CEO of OpenAI. That's clear. But using them as inspiration, getting closer, and even if you get a bit disappointed once you learn the truth, that's okay. You got further thanks of the image you created yourself. And at the end of the day, you should be proud of that. Sometimes building someone up in your head can be a good thing. It can push you to try harder, to aim higher, to believe in something before you've even proven it to yourself. The shadow can be motivation. It can be the reason you start in the first place. But that's only healthy if you remember that the shadow is yours. You created it. It's based on your perception and not on reality. The danger comes when the shadow gets so big that it blocks you. You convince yourself you could never reach that level. You forget that the person you admire has probably had days where they doubted themselves just as much as you do. That's when the projection becomes a cage, one, again, you built yourself. And the only way out is to get close enough to the light and see that there's actually hands projecting what you admired. So, to recap, the point isn't to tear people down. It's not about looking for flaws just to feel better about yourself. It's about holding two truths. Yes, admire the shadow, let it inspire you. And yes, be aware that it's not the whole story. When you can hold both, you get to keep the motivation without losing your grounding. So, next time you see a giant in your field, tech, art, life, your personal relationships, remember the Chinese shadows. The projection might be beautiful, inspiring, and even worth chasing. But up close, it's still just hands and light. And maybe that's the most encouraging part. Having said that, that was all for today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you got inspired by today's episode. And really, I encourage you to look in your own life and understand, who's the shadow in my life? Am I projecting a bit more than needed in some places? Because we've all done it, and the faster we realize that it is a projection, the more time you will have to actually realize who that person is and how to incorporate it in your life. If you ended up liking this episode, remember that liking, subscribing, and leaving a review are all very welcome. And of course, be free to comment and interact in the comments. And as usual, stay consistent, stay resilient. This was the Shower Podcast, and see you tomorrow.